Good morning. Welcome to the chapel service this morning. Also want to welcome those that may be watching in their home this morning. And I want to extend my thanks to Nan for the fine prelude music and Tim Ritchie Martin for handling our technical needs this morning. I'm Joe Driscoll, your host for today, and I want to welcome and say thanks to Ray Hedstrom for being here to share with us this morning. Ray is a retired teacher and a lay leader at the Methodist Church, and he and his wife, Donna, live on Hickory Lane. Ray, come and share with us this morning.
Thank you, Joe. This morning, I'd like to speak briefly about two C words, choices and changes. This is a writing that I did in July 8th of 2018. Choices. We all have those things in our lives that force us to choose a path. Some take time, maybe way too long. Paralysis by analysis. Some are the blink of an eye. Do it and move on. No matter what they are, all choices change us in some way. Roll the dice, flip a coin, take a number out of a hat. Makes it easy, but is easy really the way we should go? Think about it, pray about it, listen to your head, your heart, your gut. The way is there. Pick, sort, hunt. You will find an idea, maybe even two. When your back is against the wall, the choice becomes clear. It is time for action, no sitting around. While the process is easier, the solution can be quite difficult. Suck it up, buttercup. You got to get this done. Not to decide is to decide. You just let someone else make the decision for you. Who wants that? Follow your own course. Be you, not them. It takes courage to stand up and be you. They all went that way. I'm going this. Do you gotta do what you gotta do. Be what you are. One decision can be the biggest of your life. A blink of an eye and everything changes. Do you go right or left, door one or door two, walk or run? Is this the thing that is a tipping point on a journey? Choices are there, but they challenge us, inspire us, and make us think. Choose wisely. Learn from the bad choices, rejoice in the good ones. The choice is yours. In my teaching career, I started out many years ago as a business and typing teacher. Remember that typing? You sat in front of that old Royal, keep your elbows in, your feet flat on the floor, your palms off the machine. That kind of morphed into computers later on in my career. But I also had an econ minor, so I did some econ teaching. And of course, my mentor was Dr. Harshbarger. Dick was a great guy, or is a great guy, and I think the world of him. I love him to death. He's still my mentor, but I have never, ever forgiven him for one thing. He was my advisor when we came to enroll for classes. in the spring before our freshman year. He convinced my mother that it would be a very good idea that I take 7:30 in the morning biology class. I told Dr. Orpert one time, Doc, I was in 1965, I was in your freshman biology class at 7:30 in the morning. Phil looked at me just dead serious and said, I bet you that was really boring, wasn't it? Yes, but we survived it. But through my teaching in econ, I would ask my students at the beginning of the year, what is economics all about? And of course, the thing was, it's all about money. Well, money is a big component of it. But the true meaning or the true essence of economics is choices, how you choose to use your resources. So that's it. George Doan sang in his song, I've had choices since the day that I was born. I've heard voices tell me right from wrong. If I'd listened, I wouldn't be here today, living and dying by them choices I made. And so we would talk about that, and that was one of the things. Some choices are small. You go into a restaurant and you make a choice on your menu. You hope that the person you're with can also make a choice, although it doesn't seem like that happens too often. One of the things that I did in my teaching career is I was in charge of the concession stand for 10 years. And we would get groups to come in and run the concession stand for us, and they got paid for it. And my Fellowship of Christian Athletes would do that. And I can remember being at the concession stand, and most people stepped up. I'll take a Snickers bar and a Coke. Okay. I'll take a popcorn and a Coke. And everything went along fine. And the one that you really kind of hated was when somebody came up to the concession stand and said, wait a second. And they held a 4-year-old kid up and said, what do you want, honey? And all those candy bars, and they couldn't decide. And the lines were getting bigger, and the halftime was getting shorter. Okay, well, that was it. But it was soon we got through that. But it was an interesting thing to see that process work. Some choices are very big. You know, what house do we buy? Think about that. Way back in your life. What house do we buy? What college do we go to? Two meetings that I always wanted to be at or think back at Manchester was in the early in 1965, before I graduated from high school, when the admissions committee got together. And they said, look, we've got all these people. And if you can remember back in 65 with the war going on and everything, and Manchester was just packed to the gills. And the admissions committee got together and said, look, we've got more applicants than we can possibly handle. We've got some very good applicants here. We haven't got room to house a portion of these people. But there's this kid in Michigan City who's in the half of the class that makes the upper half possible. We could probably put his SAT score on his football jersey. I think it would be a good idea that we take a chance on him, because Manchester would do that. Well, that was me, of course. And so as unequipped as I was to come to college, I came here. So that was a choice that they made. The other choice was when the football staff met after my freshman year and said, all three of them, Jack and Claude and Jim, three guys that mentored me and loved me and took care of me much better than I ever should have been taken care of. When they got together and said, here, let's look at this. We haven't had a winning football team at Manchester in over 20 years. So let's do this. Let's take Rufus King, who has started 2 years at center, and we'll move him to tackle. And we'll fill that spot at center with Hedstrom. All 6'1", 178 pounds. Yeah, 168 pounds of it if I was that. And what could possibly go wrong with that? And believe me, the result of those two choices that Manchester made drastically affected my life and were things that I always look back on it. I was so blessed and so fortunate to be at such a wonderful institution that took care of me so well. To many of us, moving to Timbercrest was a huge choice. Think about that time when you had been at your family home and you changed and came here. I remember when we signed up and we paid our money and we got on the list, I'm thinking, well, that's not going to be for a long time. And the first time they called us and said, we'd like to have you come down and take a look at some places. Oh, really? Yeah, we've got a couple places down there. We'd like to have you come down and take a look. So we came down and they weren't quite exactly what we wanted. So I'm thinking, dodge the bullet there, don't have to deal with that. And then they called again. And we came down and looked, and 310 Hickory Lane had pretty much everything that we wanted. Even though the houses looked the same, there were some things on the inside and had everything that we wanted. And we thought and prayed and said, yep, I guess that's the place we're supposed to be. And so we made that choice to come here. And we made that choice to get rid of a lot of stuff. And we made that choice to make that move and take ourselves from the place that we had been for years. But we got the chance to move close to our son and his family. But that was one of the things that we had that. And I always tell people, I can remember before we came, they redecorated. They took everything out, and we got to choose what we wanted. And I can remember hours at Lowe's and Menards looking at lights. You can remember that, and all those lights. And I kept thinking, why don't they just have two? We'll choose this one or that one. We like this one. We like that one. I don't know how many lights we bought, and then took back because no, that's not going to work. So, but all those choices, and some of it became very maddening sometimes. My wife, The Rock, she got along with that pretty well. I'm thinking, let's just get something. Okay, but that was it. Well, in our information age, and Larry and I are in a Bible study group, and we talked about this quite a bit this morning in our thing. In our information age, we are overloaded with what to do. We can look on our phone, we can look on our computer, we can get information about anything. And while it's information, it helps us to make a choice, but it adds other things in. And then we think about this and we think about that. And the doctor suggests a new medicine. And so you go online and you look at all the side effects and all those different things. Those are choices that we have to make. Or what are we going to do with that? And so the one thing I would say about the choices, though, they give us options. And if you can make those choices, that's fine. When I coached football, we ran what was called a veer offense, and it was basically an option offense. And the quarterback was the guy that made made the choices. Well, there were some guys up in front that did the blocking that they actually made some choices before the quarterback had a choice to make. And you had to fit all those things together. And do you hand the ball to the halfback as he goes into the line, or you come out here and do you pitch the ball to the wing coming around, or do you keep the ball and run up the field by looking at all the different things where different people were playing? And it took a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of planning to do that. But it was those choices and those options that led us to be successful. And in our life, it's the same thing. We come up with those choices. The other C word is change. Change is the only constant. Now, there was a guy, Heraclitus. Does anybody know that? I think that's a name that was buried deep in the syllabus in Dr. Brown's philosophy class someplace. But there's a guy named Heraclitus, and he said, all the world is flux. It's always changing. You never step in the same river twice. Things are always changing, some fast, some slow, but always. To quote Mo Moriarty, a guy I coached with, good or bad, you never stay the same. Whether it is seasons, attitudes, or circumstances, they're always moving. How nice to say in your own little cocoon, snug as a bug in a rug, safe from all those things that move into our lives, things that make us move into different directions, follow new uncharted paths, maybe to places we don't want to go, forcing us to do things we don't want to do, taking us out of our comfort zone. But maybe that change can move us to a much better thing, drive us to a place that will make us search ourselves, bring out some talents and abilities that were hidden inside, force us to reach out, stretch, try something that had us scared. It is so true that the only constant is change. We might not like it, maybe hate it, but it is so. So we might as well embrace it, make it work for us, make us better, stronger, braver, and more sure of ourselves. It's going to happen. So go now, go with the flow, ride the wave. It's all part of the plan. That great philosopher Mike Tyson once said, everybody has a plan till somebody gets punched in the mouth. I have found that to be very true in life. And change can be very difficult for us. Think back. If we could have stayed at that house, that was a very nice place. We were very comfortable. Our furniture was comfortable. We had memories of our family being there, but the change made us come to a different place. Some like change. Do they really like change? Well, they like new things. And so that's one of the things. But it can be very difficult for us. And when we look at it, that change that comes about. And for those of you that have been here before and heard me speak a little bit, you know that I do some mission work in Nicaragua. Okay, I was there a week ago and came back Thursday or Friday evening. Got back in North Manchester about 10:30 at night after getting up at 1 o'clock in Managua. And that always amazes me. I get up at early in the morning and I'm in Managua, Nicaragua, and that night I sleep in North Manchester. And so that's one of the things. It's really something, and it's just amazing with me. But one of the things you learn in mission work is change. You have to be flexible. When we get ready to go on our trips, we make out a team planner for the organization that we go through. And the team planner has one of the things, they want to know what you're going to do on different days. Yeah, think about it. Okay, so we put this plan together. Well, basically the plan worked, okay? Except I can tell you one thing, that every day it rained. We've never had rain like that before. The first day we were there, we had taken the minister's family out for lunch. And we came back and it was a rainstorm. We drove through places that the water was over the hubcaps on our van. We drove through one place that when we hit the water, it knocked the grill off the van. We have no idea. It might be in Honduras by now. I don't know, but it's someplace. But that was it. And so we had that. And so that changed our plan. We had this plan. We were going to go with the minister's family, and then we were going to come back and we were going to go out and visit some homes in the village that we were at. Unfortunately, the mud was about 2 inches deep in the streets. Now, had we been real missionaries, we probably would have done that. But we're not fanatical, okay? And it was still raining. So they said, yeah, we won't do this. So we sat around and we got a chance to visit with the minister's family some more, and then drove back to the place where we were going to stay, and were able to do some other things that we had planned to do in the evening. We had a meeting with the women of the church. And after we got done with that, it rained. Okay. Well, one of the things we were going to do is we were going to do a craft project. Hey, craft project always worked. And the ladies loved it. And it turned out pretty well. But what you do is that you take a paper napkin and you peel the two pieces apart. Takes some tiny fingers to get that. And you peel the part that has the picture on it. You wrap it twice with saran wrap. You put it on whatever you want to put it on. We had bought some bags that they could use. You put it on there, you cover it with wax paper, and then you iron it. And it makes like an applique on there. Really nice. Unless you're in a place that the electricity really isn't working all that well. And you can't really run an iron as well as you may. And what we thought is you put it on there, and after 15 seconds, and no, it's going to take a lot longer than that to do this. But it was a change of plan. It was a change that was brought up with us. And so that was one of the things. We had an opportunity to visit a potter's house. And the potter is a guy he lives in a village called San Juan de Oriente. And 80% of the people in that village do pottery. They're either potters or they process clay or whatever it is. And so he does this thing, and you sit in his backyard and he shows you how he throws a pot, and then he explains to you as far as your Christian life, what that's like. And it's a fascinating thing. I've seen it a number of times, and it's just fascinating. I always learn something from it. We got done with that. We went to a place and had a nice lunch. And then some of the people went on zip lines. And then it started to rain again, and it rained and rained and rained. So we said, well, we were going to do some shopping at the market here, but it's open air, so we can't do that. So we got in the van and we're heading back. And while we're riding down the mountain, one of the guys looking at his phone, he said, oh, our flight has just been canceled for the next morning. We were going to fly American Airlines through Miami. Miami Airport was flooded. When we got back to the place where we stayed, they contacted the airlines, and the airline said, we can get you out on Monday, but we can't get you out today. And so we said, "Ugh." So they started looking at United Airlines, okay, because they were also there. And they said, they set it up. Yeah, we can get you out tomorrow morning. So they got it set up. We got to the airport the next morning and they said, we don't have any reservation for you. And there was a computer glitch that they had. We wound up calling it something else, but there was a computer glitch and we were stuck an extra day. We got home, it all worked out. But those were all changes that were made. A lot of that was not by us. And so we find that we look at it, it's those changes, and our world changes so fast now. Technology changes, all the things. One of the things I like, we get the Fort Wayne paper, and there's a thing in there has birthdays of famous people. 90% of those people, I don't even have any idea who they are. You know, they're beyond me. No, they're a lot younger than me, but every once in a while I'll catch some of those older people. But yeah, and so those kinds of things that change, and we find that it's one of those things that it brings about some really problems for us, but we have some changes that just allow us or take us to someplace new. And when we get those changes, that is the things that are really nice. One of the things I kept thinking about when we're standing there and a guy's on the phone talking to the airline and we're trying to figure out, do we really have a reservation or whatever? One scripture I came back to is Jeremiah 17:7. But blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. And, you know, that's easy to say and it's easy to, you know, talk about, but when it's, is that airline really going to get us out of here? Are you going to have faith for that? And you do. And when you stand, you get a 2-hour layover in Atlanta and you're standing in a line at Customs and Border Protection that keeps going back and forth and back and forth, and time's getting short, and you're trying to get to your place, and you finally get there, and 15 minutes before the plane takes off, and you get to sit down in that seat, and you can say, Jeremiah 17:7. I know what they're talking about. Thank you very much.